Hi, I'm Eric Olsen. I'm the Division Director of Hillsborough County's Consumer Protection Agency, and you're watching the Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. I have one of my favorite guests, Eric Olsen from Consumer Affairs, coming back in with us today to talk about consumer fraud and all the things that we have to look out for. Right, Eric?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you.
You know, we got a lot of calls the last time you were in, thanking us for having you in and talking about the various things that people have to watch out for. And this is the beginning of the new year. And of course, one of the things that all of us, well, I shouldn't say all of us, but many of us do, you don't have to, but at the beginning of the year, we start thinking, well, I'm going to get in shape. And I'm going to watch my weight, and I don't have any trouble watching my weight, but I'm going to do something about it. But that opens me up to some frauds, does it not?
It can. One of the things that people want to look out for is problems that they might encounter going into a weight loss center, fitness center. They're going to enter into a contract, and like any other legally binding contract, they're going to want to make sure that they look over all of the terms of the contract so that they understand what's going on. Where people can run into problems is that nowadays, instead of reviewing a contract, people might agree to something and then they just sign on an electronic pad. And that's really not sufficient. You want to get a copy of the contract, any sort of agreement that you're signing to and agreeing to, you want to get a copy of and understand all of the terms so you don't run into frauds like you're talking about.
Yeah, I have to admit, and I suspect many of you out there are the same way, that I see all this stuff at the end on the internet. They'll say, if you want this app, you have to sign, yes, I agree, or I accept, and I think yada, 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 no, and I go. Mm-hmm. But that's dangerous, isn't it?
It is. I myself fall victim to that. It's, I believe you're referring to the end user licensing agreement, right. Or EULA, they call it.
And it's the same when they start showing it on a pad for one of the health spas or whatever. You just can't take it as, oh, it must be all right.
No, you really want to print it out, save it somewhere, or at least browse through it so that you understand what's going on. If you're interested in finding out what's going to happen to your information, what you're being bound to, and what you're agreeing to, you want to at least browse it so that you understand at a basic level what is being offered and what you're agreeing to.
And of course, if you don't have a copy of it, they could change it at any time. Your signature's still on it.
That's right. That's right. That is a big problem. If you're signing something, you want to get a copy of it so that everything is clear. Don't come back later and try to get a copy because things could be filled in, things could be changed. It doesn't happen a lot of times that way. Most of the time, you're going to be dealing with people that are reputable, that are honest and fair. But if you're going to be dealing with somebody who's not, you don't want to be caught in a trap.
And even if they are reputable and fair, you can sign up for things you really didn't need or didn't really think you were getting.
That's correct. You might. And that's where the understanding comes in. If you get a copy, you can look over it and make sure that you're completely understanding the nature of the agreement. Oftentimes, for instance, on a contract for future services, you have the opportunity to cancel, but only within a few days. The standard date time frame to cancel is 3 business days. So if you have a contract for future services, which are often part of the health industry, you would only have 3 days to cancel that if you wanted to. So it's very important that you understand what's in the contract so that you would know if you want to continue with that or not.
Now, Eric, doesn't that depend on whether they come to me or I go to them?
It does.
They come to my house and I buy something. I forget what there's a term for that.
Home solicitation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have a right to cancel within so long, correct?
Yes, you do. On home solicitation agreements are very similar to the contracts for future services.
I guess I don't understand contracts for, I mean, if I go into a roofer, if I go into the XYZ roofing and I sign that I want them to put a new roof on my house this next month, I can still cancel it within 3 days?
Depending on the nature of the business that you're dealing with, not necessarily. Many times here in the state of Florida, there is not a cooling off period, is what they would call it, or the 3 days with the right to cancel.
So we should look for that in the contract also, whether there is a right to cancel and how long that right might be, correct?
Exactly, correct, yes. And on a home solicitation where someone who's not exempt under the law comes to your house and makes a home solicitation type offer, that would be as part of the contract under state law. That has to be listed in there, that there are 3 days to cancel. So it really depends on the nature of the agreement.
So you drew a line. I see you drawing some lines as you speak. If anyone comes out to my house and I sign a contract, there may be some exceptions to my being able to get out of the rule, get out of the contract?
Yes, there are. For instance, under state law, people who have done business with you in the past are exempted from the home solicitation permit requirement. There are other exemptions as well. So not everyone who comes to your door offering to do a service for you has to have a home solicitation permit and offer the 3 days to cancel if you enter into an agreement. There are exemptions under the law. But generally speaking, if someone comes to your door unsolicited,
and you don't know them, and you've never done business with them before.
That's right. They should have, and you have the right to ask for their home solicitation permit. Yes.
Okay, and that goes for everybody that comes, a tree trimmer, whatever, right?
Generally speaking, yes. Yeah, someone who comes to your door unsolicited, who's soliciting to you, who hasn't contacted you by phone. For instance, one of the exemptions there is that if someone calls you and tells you about a service and then comes to your house, and maybe you don't remember or not, but if they've called and talked to you, that's considered a business contact or maybe a prior relationship that you've had. They can be exempted from having to have a home solicitation permit. You've in a sense invited them to their house. Somebody
calls me up and says, I'm with HTV Heating and Cooling, or whatever numbers or letters they have, and I'd like to send a man out to talk to you about doing so-and-so. Does that then exclude them if I say yes?
If you say yes, or you are interested in their offer, that would exclude them from having to have a home solicitation permit, yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, so you have to be careful with...
I guess you do.
Yeah, the situations vary depending on how people are conducting their business. But out of the blue, people just showing up, that's where you would run into trouble if you've got people that you have not done business with before, that may be out in your neighborhood trying to drum up business. You want to check into their background, do some initial research to avoid any problems. And asking if they have a home solicitation permit or if they're excluded or not is a good thing to do, something to think about.
I'm going to reiterate this towards the end of the program again. You'll see the numbers and the email and everything you need to be able to get a hold of Eric's office. Eric himself may not be accessible at any given time, but the staff is really good. Following our last time that he was on the show, I explained to him a situation that had happened in our lives. I've been doing business with this person for some period of time. I trusted them, and he walked away with $250 of my money.
Yes.
And ended up gone. And I called your office, as you suggested, and they tracked the guy down, tracked his history down. And in that instance, the guy was already out on $250,000 bond. He was going to jail anyway, and your best advice, or both you and the office's best advice was, hey, unless it's worth it to you, just don't mess with this guy, he's mean.
That's right, yes.
So it was a good heads up for me, and that might be the answer you get. You might not get your $250 back, but it may save you trouble in the future, correct?
That's right. And the old saying is you don't want to throw good money after bad. Depending on your situation, depending on what you have invested in a situation, you have to make a decision oftentimes how you go about dealing with it. Do you want to go after them in court? Do they have a criminal history that you want to deal with a person?
Well, this guy, you were telling me what his criminal history was, and that made it even more important that I don't mess with him and keep him off my property.
That's right. And if someone's done you wrong, there's an issue of having justice fulfilled in that situation. So it depends on the nature of what you're looking at. And as we discussed, for $250, it's sometimes not worth going after it and the struggle of going after it, because what people don't oftentimes...
He didn't have it anyway.
He might not have had it anyway. That's right.
The worst, he might have got an extra day or two in jail.
That's right.
I don't know. But it wasn't worth making him even madder, to be honest with you.
Well, and on a $250 charge, the standard means of going after that on a basic agreement is to go to small claims court.
Which isn't enforceable.
It's very challenging to enforce.
Let's talk about, since you brought up small claims court, let's talk about what small claims court is and what it's not.
Yes, small claims court is a civil court process where the amount that you're seeking to debate or recover, or maybe you've lost, is less than $5,000. Standard civil court goes beyond that. You can file claims for whatever amount, but if it's less than $5,000, it's a small claims court filing. You're going to file in court. You don't have to have attorney.
Which costs you a fee.
There's a filing fee depending on the level of the amount that you're looking to recover. It's a tiered structure. And so for 0 to, I can't recall the exact figures, but $100, it's one amount, 100 to 250, it's another, and so on and so forth. You don't need an attorney to represent you in small claims court, but it's advisable to have one. You file your claim. You have to pay for service of process of the paperwork onto the other party or parties. The sheriff usually does that, or a process server, so there's another fee there. You wait 21 days, and then you have a hearing at that point. If there's been no response, you can get a judgment against the other party, or you might have to go and plead your case in court to get that judgment. Once you get the judgment, however, there's a whole other process of going after the money. So people think that once you win in court, that's the end of it. You can get a judgment against another party, but then you have to collect. So part of the process of looking at a situation is the money available from the other party? If I win, am I going to be able to collect it? Can I seize their property? Can I put a lien on their property? Is there some way to get that money back? And if not, you would be throwing good money after bad. It might be a losing
proposition. You've already
proposition.
paid the filing fee, you've paid the processor fee.
Yes.
And
in your case, with the $250, you would have paid probably at least that amount in fees just to go after the amount of money you're looking to gain. So unless it's on principle and you want to take them to court so that you can get a judgment against them and go after them, it's sometimes not worth it.
But the judgment itself is, I've not seen how most times if you have two honorable people and they're willing to go to an attorney or to a court and talk their case and be willing to pay or not, that's one thing. But in a lot of instances, that's not it. And so if I do get a judgment, then what can I do with the judgment? If you tell me, if I have a judgment against you, Eric, and for $250 or $5,000 or whatever, you say, no, I'm just not going to pay it.
Yes, usually.
It's not even contempt of court, is it?
Well, it may be. I'm not an attorney,
Yeah,
so
right.
we're
Sure.
talking about some of these situations here. But based on my experience, it's a challenge to get that money. There are ways to go about doing it. You could hire a collection agent. You could attempt to enforce the judgment through filing of a lien on property. There's
All of which costs you money.
all of which there's extra cost in, correct.
If you want to get that back, you'd have to file for more.
Correct. There's a process, a legal process that's a writ that you can file to go about seizing property that you can then sell. So if someone has, and by property I don't mean real estate necessarily, but vehicles, equipment, things of that nature that you might be able to seize, you can then possibly get your money back that way. But there's all a process. And if you're not skilled and knowledgeable in that process, you have to hire an attorney to do it, which is extra cost. So
the best thing is to keep your head down, stay out of trouble in the first place, and pay attention to what your office says, right?
Most oftentimes, that's the best way. Just do your thing, live your life, watch out for frauds and schemes that
If it's too
tend
good
to
a
come
deal,
up.
you can't believe it, you better not.
That's right. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you watch out and be careful and do some initial homework before you enter into agreements like we're talking about, or doing business with people you're not familiar with, you can avoid problems and pitfalls.
What about some of the things there that people we're going into spring here soon, and I don't want to talk about a particular clan of people that move around the country doing all kinds of home repairs and things of that nature, but this is the time of year that they become most active.
Yes.
What kind of scams are we facing?
Some of the most common ones that we've seen with the people that you're talking about that kind of move around, gypsies as they're commonly known as, are roof repairs. You might see people offering to resurface driveways, asphalt work, painting jobs, odd jobs, general things like that may be small dollar jobs but could add up. Jobs that can be done very quickly. Those are the types of things that you're looking to.
But don't they kind of have a pattern too? They get you on one job, they find other things to do that
Yes.
need to be done?
Yeah, or they make things happen, maybe damaging things.
Your
there have been reports
gutters
of
are
that.
falling down, my goodness.
Yeah, or someone kicks over the sprinkler head in your yard. Oh look, now you've got sprinkler work. I noticed that's damaged, and maybe you now need thousands of dollars in sprinkler repair. And whether or not you need that is something that you would want to look at. People need to remember that when you're going to get work done, it's often advisable to get quotes on the work. Look into people's backgrounds, but to get at least 3 different quotes for the work, because the price will vary for any particular job. So someone is there at your house and something happens or something needs to be done. It's at that point where you want to stop and say, okay, I need to look into this further, let it be, and I'll get back to you on it, and look into other options and see what can be done professionally.
I think that one of the things you pointed out, and I think is very important, Eric, is build relationships with people that do your work, or at least call somebody else and ask them, who do you use and what do they do?
That's very important, yes. Those types of relationships, like you're saying, mean the difference between oftentimes a good job and a bad job. If you've got no relationship with someone, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a quality amount of work done. The work might be done, but what quality of work? That's very important.
I've been using the same company, Don's Lawns, out in Sun City to do my yard work for, well, before we moved to Sun City, so probably close to 15 years. And they also were going to do some sprinkler work for me because I needed them to clean the heads and that. And somehow or another, the pump went bad while they were doing it. And it would have been easy for them to say, sorry, that's not us. But Don himself came out and made it right.
There you go.
I mean, and I don't want to say this because we were 15 years with them as customers, because I think he'd have probably done it the first year, but we've recommended him so often. And I think that's an important thing, isn't it? To get recommendations from other people.
It really is. The recommendations you're talking about are proof, are people's proof, their experiences in how, like you dealt with them, how they were treated, how the job went, what the cost was maybe compared to other companies. That's very important.
And it's not always he's not always the cheapest. None of the people I deal with are always the cheapest. But the quality of work that you get is long remembered after the cost of the job is done.
Many companies today will do a good job for you, believe in the old adage that the customer is always right, but there are maybe as many, or I'm hoping that it's a lot less, but there are companies out there that don't care about customer client services. They don't believe that the customer is always right. They're in it for the money. And that's the difference that you're talking about, that a relationship makes.
What do you think are the top 3 things right now that people need to be watching out for?
I think people need to be aware of, one of the biggest things is the idea, it's more a concept of convenience, of quick either work or things being done through oftentimes the internet or other mediums. If people are offering something and it's quick or rapid or convenient, people have to be careful of that. One of the biggest things going on right now, you've heard about it in the news, are cybercrime. There have been hacking attacks on different companies. That can affect us without us even really knowing about it.
Your information being taken from Target or...
Yes, or now Chick-fil-A, Home Depot. There are a number, the companies are adding up, and that will undoubtedly continue. That's probably the #1 issue that people need to be aware of, is how that can affect them.
How do they protect themselves?
That's one of the biggest things that people need to be aware of. One is credit monitoring. They need to know how to access their credit report, which can be done for free, and they need to protect their credit reports as much as they can.
I've always been worried about going on one of the websites that says we'll give you your free credit reports. Because I'm half worried it's a scam. I'm going to put all my information in order to qualify to get it, and find out that they were just harvesting. How do I know where I can go to get that information that I don't have to worry about it?
The one main website is called annualcreditreport.com.
Annualcreditreport.com.
Correct.
Okay.
That website links to the 3 primary credit reporting agencies.
Okay.
And any other website is probably offering to provide you a free report with credit monitoring or some other pay service.
Okay.
So,
what about credit monitoring? Is that a good thing?
I haven't personally had credit monitoring in effect because I do it myself. I think that you can pay a company to do it. It's somewhat like home maintenance. You can, like your yard company.
Okay.
You mentioned that earlier. You could do your yard yourself, or you could pay someone to do it. It just depends on what you're more comfortable with, what you're able to do. If you'd rather have someone monitor it for you, you can pay for them to do it, but there's a charge in that. If you'd rather do it yourself, you can access your credit report once per year for free for each of the agencies.
Oh, for each of them?
Yes, so there's 3 agencies. You can access all 3 at the same time once per year, or maybe access one agency every 4 months throughout the year.
Maybe that'd be a good thing, do it every quarter, hit the different ones, because I assume they're all going to be fairly close to the same.
Correct. Yeah, they have a little bit of different information, but if you're looking at them regularly, you become familiar with them, and you can get a sense of what's going on. What people should be looking for, whether they choose credit monitoring or not, are any anomalies on their credit report, things that they're not aware of, any accounts that are open that they did not open. Those are the types of things that need to be reported as fraud. The more that we can see them and report them, the better off we'll be able to defend ourselves against some use. Because what's happening in these hacking attacks is that they're looking for information that they can then open accounts or get information that are already open on open accounts and use them against you to purchase goods and services. So if you are aware of a situation, then you can correct it before it goes on for months, years sometimes, and you've racked up thousands of dollars in charges and may not be able to dispute it, because there's only a certain amount of time that you have under the law to dispute fraudulent charges. But you
And
have to be aware of it.
It amazes me. A lot of people don't bother to check their credit cards.
Right. Yeah.
They just pay the bill. The bill goes to the bank and the bank pays it.
Right. And that's the convenience thing I was talking
Yeah.
about. It's easy for us to just be a part of habit, and a lot of these criminals out there try to exploit our habits. So they're looking for us to not be aware of our credit reports. They're looking for us to not check our statements, and they're hoping that things will go undiscovered for a certain amount of time for them to get away with it.
Well, my wife Phyllis is really good at checking. So all you scammers out there, you just leave us alone because she'll catch you.
That's good to remember.
Although, honestly, I was not very good at it myself. She's the one, anything happened to her, I'd be in deep trouble.
Well, yeah, that's how us married people are. My wife is the same way. She and I both help each other out, and you operate as a team. So whether you're on your own or you're married, people need to be aware of what we can do to look out for each other. And like you said, with building relationships, being a part of a community, even watching this program right now, people are getting information because we're all part of the same community here. We're here to help each other out. And the more that we can be involved in social organizations, in community efforts, the more that we can stay connected, the more we can learn about some of these things and help protect each other.
With a name like Eric Olsen, you wouldn't think you'd be that fluent in Spanish, but you are fluent in Spanish. So
I am.
If somebody's listening here and they're getting a piece of it, but they want more information, they can call you and you can take care of them in Spanish.
Correct, yeah. Our secretary at our work speaks Spanish, and I do as well. And so we try to fulfill that niche for people that need some assistance in Spanish. We've got a large Hispanic population in the Tampa Bay area, so we're definitely
And I assume
able
that
to
people
support them.
take advantage of those people a lot.
Yeah, crooks will take advantage of any angle they can, and if it's somebody that they can abuse someone through mistakes in the language, they'll try to do that any way they can.
So we have about a minute. If I have a problem and I want to find out if there's any help, what's the procedure I need to go through?
Well, we're glad to assist with that effort. Depending on the nature of the situation, it's going to be an agency like ours where we deal with unfair and deceptive business practices, or it might be law enforcement if it's a theft or other economic crime or some other crime. But if someone has a question, they can contact our agency. Our main number is 813-903-3430. They can go on our website at hillsboroughcounty.org/consumer protection. They can look up if companies have had complaints. We have a new feature on our website where you can look up a company. If it's been within the last 5 years that we've had a complaint against them, they can see if there's a complaint online, or they can file a complaint with us, and we'll be glad to evaluate it and see what we can do to correct the situation.
Well, Eric, I want to thank you for coming on the program today, and I do thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, sir.
And ladies and gentlemen, the process is very easy. Go ahead and give them a call, and you'll find that they'll answer your questions for you. They're not attorneys. They're not out there to do attorneys' work, but they do a great job in guiding you in the direction you need to go if you have a problem. Eric, thank you so much for being on the show.
Glad to.
I'm Bill Hodges. I've had Eric Olsen from the Consumer Protection Organization here in Hillsborough County. You're unique, you're special, you're great. Tell you so often because you are, and we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you again. Glad to be here.